don't want to be strong like man who look pretty. I want to be strong like bitch that fight bears in the forest.
I mean, it's fine. Although your mic is way out there, so.
My mic has to be across the room so that we're at the same volume.
Ugh, so silly. Okay.
We'll invest in higher quality mics when, things like Tufted Needle sponsor our...
Right.
Yeah.
Come on, we need sponsors. Or followers so we can start doing ads. Get paid.
Right?
One or the other. Okay, what are we doing?
This is episode 6.
Episode 6.
Yeah.
Holy cow. We're in December. Welcome to December.
So we've been doing this for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Like we do an episode a week.
We do.
That's a long-term relationship for you, Amber.
Hey. I mean, it's true, but rude.
Sorry. This week, we are talking about fiscal challenges, which seems really... it's a roundabout way about health and wellness, because I think, so many people don't understand how, financial things play into their, mental well-being, and then that trickles down into your physical well-being. So it's very kind of, off to the left, but I think it still is really important when talking about, mental health and physical health. So we're talking
important
about fiscal challenges, especially during the holidays, because they obviously rise during the holiday time.
Right? So much. Yeah. So, okay. So we all experience fiscal challenges. Well, I say all. I'm going to stick with all.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. 90% of Americans report feeling some sort of anxiety or stress during the holidays. Obviously, that's why we're here talking about stress during the holidays for 6 weeks.
Because the majority of Americans are like, ugh.
According to a survey conducted by the APA, which I think were in our notes last year. I don't remember what last year. Last week?
Last week. Actually, a couple weeks ago. Yeah, it's the American Psychological Association.
There we go. Okay, thank you. So they conducted a survey, and they found that finances and money are the number one cause of stress for Americans. Shocker. 27% of shoppers polled stated that the holidays put a strain on their budgets. Obviously, we feel that. 32% of adults say that if they were faced with an unexpected $400 expense, they would need to sell something or borrow money to cover it, which is bananas.
That's bananas.
I mean, I get it. I've been there.
But yeah, that,
it's
especially
wild.
In this, I don't know, everything, no matter, I feel like no matter where you go or what you do, it's $100.
Yeah.
This is what used to be $20 is now just $100. Your money is definitely not going as far.
Yeah. Every time you walk out the door, $100.
Yeah. This is why we don't cross our thresholds very often.
No, I do everything right here in this apartment. Because 90% of Americans report lost sleep to economic worries, which I can also understand. I have 100% lost sleep a lot due to economic worries.
Go back and listen to episode 5 about sleep.
Yeah. So it would be inappropriate to discuss fiscal challenges without mentioning the theme of 2022, which is
inflation.
What is important to remember here about inflation is that all types of earners, regardless of income bracket, are going to face challenges in this climate with the increased inflation.
Yep.
Everyone is having to scale down, which can bring up feelings of inadequacy, being less than, not able to provide for those that have families or tiny dogs to provide for. And these can take a huge toll on our mental health.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, and that's the key point for this episode is how not only fiscal challenges, which play into mental health, how mental health then translates into physical health. Because if you're not feeling well, if you're having a lot of anxiety or depression or those things, it's really hard to get outside and do the things you need to do for your physical health. Mm-hmm. And which is such a shame because we know
Right.
that physical activity then improves our mental health. So like it's this,
Mhm.
cyclical thing that is just it's bad. It's bad. So we're going to talk about
It's not good for anyone.
Yeah, it's not good for anyone. So we're going to talk about one of the main stressors.
Yeah.
So I think one of the cool things when doing some research about the fiscal challenges is talking about like why we put so much pressure on like gift giving and things during the season. And so it's a way, like bottom line is it's a way for us to reinforce our social ties.
Mhm.
And we all know that as humans, despite some of us being more extroverted or introverted, whatever, we seek companionship in a lot of different ways. And we are, pack animals. We need other human connection.
Mhm.
And so gift giving is a way that we reinforce those connections, and it becomes really important for people. And it's just such an interesting thing of like, okay, we've been taught this, especially since like little people, right?
Yeah.
Like that this is something to be celebrated, and it doesn't matter race or religion or anything like that. But gifts and tokens are just these like things that we cherish. And then there's these holidays that are specifically focused on giving gifts and tokens to be cherished. So that's interesting. So one of the things that people really hold on to is like when they feel like they can't give a lot of gifts, they feel like they're damaging those connections and those relationships.
Yes.
And that is, it's so sad to me because like, if you probably go around and poll your friends of like, okay, what is meaningful about a relationship? It's probably going to be things like quality time versus like actually giving you something to hold on to. But we still are like, oh, like during the season, not only do we have to spend quality time, we have to go out of our way, spend our money to reinforce those things. So I guess in that is like, okay, have conversations probably about like what it really means to you, and is this just like a societal thing, or do gifts really mean something to you? Because that is one of the love languages.
It is.
Receiving and giving gifts is a love language, and for people out there it's going to be a big thing, but not for everyone.
Right. It's true. And we have not discussed our gifts this year.
I thought this would be a great time to do it. Actually, I planned on slipping that in into this episode.
It's really interesting because for the last few years, my mom and I and my brother, my stepfather, we've all agreed like we're not doing gifts because money's always a little tight this time of year. There's health challenges that take money. Work stuff and changes going on. And so it's just easier for everyone to not exchange gifts, especially with like living across the country. It's hard to like ship those gifts. That's an added expense on top of the actual gifts themselves.
And especially if you're trying to avoid using Amazon, right? Like how, like then you have to like you have to go to
buy something, wrap it, ship it. It's like $50 at least to ship something across the country.
Yeah.
So we just don't do that anymore. And it is such a stress reliever to not have to worry about like finding the perfect gift, getting it shipped in time to get there without it costing a fortune. And like, we're not even together to like open them together. So like, whatever.
That's nice. The relieving of the stress of like, what was it? We watched Noelle yesterday, right? And so one of the lines in the movie I think is really cute is like when she's like, well, what does Christmas mean to you? And he's like, it's spending time with his son. That's what Christmas is. And she's like, okay, well, the other stuff is just the wrapping then.
Yes.
Like the gift giving or whatever those other things are, it's just a wrapping in that. But like let's get down to what actually Christmas means to you and like that thing. And I'm like, oh, that's such an important takeaway because like what does Christmas mean? And I mean, it takes obviously a lot of self-reflection to be like, what does Christmas mean to me? Because like so much of it is wrapped up in all of the other things.
Yeah. The presents and the
The parties.
the gathers and the food and the alcohol
and the decorating. And
Yeah.
I think that's what Christmas means to me. It's decorating.
Yes. That is definitely what Christmas means to you. As you can see, it is not what
If
Christmas is to
somebody
me.
could find me the like machine gun from the Jim Carrey's The Grinch that shoots the lights onto the house, that would be my dream gift. Like, be awesome.
We also watched that yesterday.
We watched a lot of Christmas movies yesterday. Reinforcing this.
It was quality time. Mm-hmm. Your wife and I did our nails together.
Yeah.
You built a Lego Christmas village. Yep. Yes. Yeah. So for me, it's quality time. That's my thing. However, I do enjoy purchasing gifts onto my bullet, my highlighted bullet here. We highlight our notes so that we know who's supposed to talk about what. So purchasing and like that gift buying experience can be a coping mechanism for some. Mm. It can be a way to alleviate emotional distress, right? Like we all know this. Stress buying or emotional buying or whatever term you want to use. We've all been there. That's why Amazon was so popular during the pandemic. Like we were all stress buying. So we do that to make ourselves feel better. So in the context of, a stressful time, there's lots of emotions, and it's easy to see how we can go overboard with this and overextend ourselves, especially during the holidays, when on top of the normal life stressors, there's the stressors of the holidays, of pressure to buy everyone you know a gift. And,
How many times have you walked through Target and then got done your lap, got up to the top and just looked at your cart and was like, what is in here?
It has happened.
Has it happened recently?
It may or may not have happened last weekend.
Shelby and I have a current ban on Target. Like, we don't just randomly go into Target anymore.
Yeah.
Because I took a look at our budget, and it was just one of those things. Because you walk in and you're like, all right, I'm here for razors. And we walked out, and this is at a Halloween. We walked out, I kid you not, with 3 apothecary jars and a bunch of flowers to put in them to put on our mantle for Halloween.
I mean,
what
they
did
looked
we
good.
Not come out with razors. So there's definitely that you walk in, they definitely capture you, and this is bad because I've worked retail. I know what they're doing.
Yeah, it's obvious. It's not like they're trying to hide it.
Yeah, we know, and it's still
they know what we're there for.
That's crazy to me. Of okay,
yeah. I think I've gotten a lot better. I think the first year that we were down here, because we had no access to Target, I think I overdid it a little bit.
Yeah.
So every time I went, it was so exciting to have access to it again. And now I'm like, okay, the newness is worn off. I can actually just go in and get what I need and leave.
Yeah. Yeah. I felt that too. It was funny. I felt that way when I was living, when Target came to my hometown. We would just go to Target because all we had was Walmart. Mm-hmm. And even Sears had gone away a long time ago. Mm-hmm. So it's it moving to a place where you have more access can definitely ramp that up.
Yep.
Cool. So we've talked about gift giving is a social tie. Purchasing is a coping mechanism for some. And then another thing that is really important to understand is that for many people, their kind of self-worth is tied into their income. So being a high earner or just managing the funds coming in. And I think while that's great, we all would like to earn more. It is important to recognize that budgeting is an important factor. So even if you're a high earner, if you don't have a good sense of what you're spending your money on and you're not allocating it, it can snowball out of control. So it doesn't, again, going back to when we said like, inflation and all those things, it doesn't matter what income bracket you're in. If you're poorly spending what you have, then it doesn't matter how much is coming in.
Right?
Right, because then your purchases are just bigger, essentially.
Just fancier.
It's just fancier.
Hashtag YNAB sponsor us.
Yeah, YNAB. That's a
You need a budget.
You Need a Budget is a great budgeting tool, especially if you're somebody who doesn't want to look at another Excel document. Like maybe you're already living in Excel and you find it overwhelming. Maybe you just need a new way to perceive things. YNAB is a great tool to use, and it's a good way to lay a foundation. Another one that I have found is if you listen to the Morning Brew or read the Morning Brew, there's Money with Katie. She's another great one. That's more of an Excel, Google Sheet type. YNAB is essentially a really, really fancy Google Sheet software. It doesn't look like a Google Sheet or an Excel.
No, it's. I've found it to be really user friendly. That's what I use for my personal budget and our Shield Maiden budget. And it is something you pay for, which I didn't love at first, but it has been such a useful tool.
Yeah, because you can budget for your membership to YNAB.
But like you can put all your accounts in there. It tracks your credit card usage. Like it's just for somebody who has always struggled with a budget. Me, it's been a godsend. Like it's so helpful.
Yeah,
I love it.
Money. Yeah, I think like changing your mindset around money is a really hard thing to do, and I don't think it has to do with how much you earn or income or anything like that. It's a lot of like trauma from childhood, whatever it might be, or just not knowing. Like there's also like not a lot of conversations around money, right? Like we heard that a lot growing up. I'm sure many of you did. What do you not talk about at the dinner table? It's like sex, money, and politics. Which are
sex,
like
drugs, and rock and roll.
Actually, all the things you should be talking about.
Right.
Like
you should.
So maybe that's a whole nother episode.
It is. It is. Those forbidden topics.
Topics. Ooh, I love that.
That's fun. Anyways.
But yeah, so going back to like income being tied to kind of like your self-worth, one of the things that is like when people start to feel the pressure of like the inability to do things during the holidays, they see it as like a personal failure as opposed to just like a financial setback of like, oh, times are rough right now, but that doesn't mean that you as a person have failed. It's just like there's a lot of like external factors that go into this. So maybe talk to a therapist about like how that ties into your self-worth. Just a thought. We all do that. I mean, everybody has something they need to work on. So you're not
like check with your HR department. They might have, like I know we have at my day job a program, an employee assistance program that we can go talk to a financial advisor as part of our wellness program. I don't know. So like, it's such a great thing. So like, if you are struggling, see if your work can help you. They might have a program that can help you with that. And if not, go listen to Money with Katie. Apparently she's great. Give Sid a call. I don't know. So people's self-worth being tied to their income. Which is so silly. It's so damaging to our mental health. So in some cases, we can also swing the other way, right? So like we start feeling anxious and, especially with things the way they are right now with inflation and all of our incomes and not keeping up with it, it's very scary. And so we can swing in that opposite direction and drastically cut spending and miss out on those opportunities because we feel, and I know I felt this, like we feel like we can't go to a gathering because we can't afford to bring a bottle of wine because we can't afford extra food to bring. And so we're missing out on those opportunities. Yeah. Just to spend time with people.
Yeah. And I would say probably that the majority of people are not in that category, most people like,
Mhm.
I think, kind of swing the other way. But for those of us who are in that category, and I'm going to speak to myself a little bit because I have been on a personal finance growth trajectory since like, I was 18. I didn't grow up with a lot. I saw a lot of different like things. And so I tend to fall into that one
Mhm.
more because I am very cognizant of our money.
Yeah.
And I tend to pull the reins back instead of go overboard.
Yeah.
And then I like look back and I'm like, so I've been trying to be better about like, hey, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Like, whatever it might be a trip or something like that, and be like, I can earn this money back, and I had this earmarked for this experience.
Right.
So it's okay to spend it.
That's where that budget comes in.
Yeah, exactly. So like that's where budgeting becomes a really cool thing because you can be like, I've already earmarked this. I'm not spending things that I didn't have marked for this opportunity. Obviously, sometimes things come up and you have to spend things that are earmarked. That's why it's nice to have an emergency fund, which, as we learned earlier, that a lot of people don't have an emergency fund built in. $400, like most people, if you wanted a pretty healthy emergency fund, like I guess the general finance rule is like $1,000 to cover like a car or like something like that, and then diving deeper would be like 3 months of your bills, like your must pays,
which is
but
wild for me to think of. Like I can't even imagine having that much money to put into savings, like, and not have to spend on like my daily life.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's hard. It's incredibly difficult. So yeah, and I think in talking about all of this, there are some things to watch out for during the holidays, and your kind of approach to finances. So one thing that I would say that is really important to check out and make sure is any avoidant behavior. Like if you find yourself or your friends or your family avoiding talking about money, avoiding doing social things, avoiding or refusing to like open bills, like if you see a stack of bills, it's only increasing their anxiety and your own anxiety about the finances. So like that is a big one to just be on the lookout for. And if you find yourself doing that, then it's time to start reflecting or talking to somebody, because it's definitely a symptom of a greater thing.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to set boundaries. I feel like we've talked about this in like every episode regarding stressors of the holidays. And this is something I myself am still learning to do because it was not a thing I did when I was younger. But yeah, set boundaries. Don't be afraid to talk to your loved ones about gift limits or even, hey, finances are super tight. Can we have an experience rather than giving gifts this year? Can we do a potluck dinner or something, yeah. And, set boundaries, set limits for gifts, for ways that you'll be celebrating and are comfortable celebrating for the holidays. Maybe that's less parties, less going out, more staying in and watching The Grinch with loved ones, which I think is preferable because you can sit in your jammies and watch a movie in the comfort of your own home.
Amber's wearing leggings and I'm wearing sweatpants.
It's how we holiday.
It's how we holiday. I don't know if that's really any different from anything else we've been doing since working home from the pandemic, but it feels like it's specific to the holidays.
Well, there's a Christmas tree now.
That's true. There's a Christmas tree.
And we have the cozy pillows out.
Cozy pillows. It's all about the decor. Yeah. So like Amber said, like setting boundaries, and kind of like focus on experiences instead of material gifts or homemade gifts and things like that. Like something that if you don't have an alcohol addiction, and something that I have found is a really great gift and is also incredibly useful is homemade vanilla extract, because everybody bakes during the holidays. So you can prep it the year before. You get some vanilla beans, recommend Costco, and then get a giant thing of vodka and partition them all out, and then you can give homemade vanilla extract. Because I don't know if you've been to the store lately, but real vanilla extract in like a normal bottle is like $15. you've got your $20 gift right there, homemade, and it's going to taste a lot better.
True.
So just,
I will expect that in my stocking this year.
I didn't prep them this year. That'll be next year. Jams and jellies, great homemade gifts.
Oh, yeah.
And they also stir really well into cocktails, as we learned.
Ooh, I should give you a jar of my mom's apple pie spread.
So I can stir it into a cocktail?
Yes.
Okay.
For the next time I come over.
Okay. I understand now.
Yeah. And, you know, I think we've probably talked about this with all of our episodes, but it goes along with setting boundaries and focusing on experiences, but reflect and communicate. So, you know, talk to your loved ones. Like, we know this is an uncomfortable and forbidden topic, but everyone has to deal with money. Like, they all have it or don't have it, and are stressing one way or the other. So communicate, you know, build financial empathy for each other. And this can be, you know, helpful to your relationships, and, you know, reflecting on your own financial literacy and like how you're doing in budgeting is really helpful. It's a hard time of the year to start doing that, but it is never a bad time to start doing it.
True. And there's good segues because, you know, everybody's spending right now. So, like, if you need a reason to start the topic of conversation, there's no better time in that way.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, everybody's spending right now. So it's easy to just kind of segue into that conversation. Another thing is, we know it can be really hard to ask for help, but if you do need assistance, use the resources available in your area. There usually are many this time of year. Increasing grocery prices are a huge contributing factor to everybody's holiday stresses this year, and money worries. So if you're comfortable asking for gift cards as presents, why not ask for ones like your local grocery store? It could
Such a good idea.
Ease the burden. If you and your family are in need of some assistance, you can start with the USDA's hunger hotline, which is 1-866-348-6479, or they have a texting version, which I think is great. And you can ask them questions about what's available in your area. In the text, you can do 97779, and it'll get you some resources, and at least a place to start.
And we'll make sure those numbers are in the show notes.
Yeah, because I talk fast and I try to slow down when I say numbers, but it doesn't always happen.
No, it's okay. Yeah. And keep tuning in to us as we continue to close out the holidays with holiday stressors.
Guess what? We're on Apple Podcasts.
Ooh.
So now we're on all the major ones. That's Spotify, Google, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, YouTube.
Yes. And this is our first actual video. I guess we've done videos before, but they really haven't gone that well.
Yeah.
But this one is going to be up on YouTube, so you can actually watch us drink our coffee and the tiny dog run amok.
Yep. Cool.
Awesome.
Nice.
Happy December.
Happy December. Holy moly.